They'll see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And that, I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. And you can pick up, you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to take it, and I learned that 16 practice. Biggest mistake you ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And you're hot in 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial, the Martin Houston Show fan page on Facebook. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning, and we have DC Capstone Report joining us in the second quarter. Until then, I want to invite you to get in on the conversation at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. The Taco Casa hotline is open for business, so I want to invite you to join the conversation there. And if you're tuned in via the social media outlet world, then you can also add your comments in the chat box there, and we'll bring those comments into the conversation on Tide 100.9, the Martin Houston Show, the Sound of Alabama Sports, your show, your team. So let's look forward to a great show. Let's make it a great show, and looking forward to having you as a part of the conversation. All right. We're going to continue some of the conversation we had from yesterday. Didn't get too deep into it, just really highlighted two offensive linemen. And so we'll talk about them here in just a moment. Landon Dickerson and Alex Leatherwood. We'll re-highlight those, but we'll also to talk with DC a little bit about the three-point shot, we call it, where we look at what three things this Bama basketball team needs to do to get a win tonight as they open SEC play against the Ole Miss Rebels. We'll look at keys to victory for Alabama over Notre Dame, key matchups within that game, what units need to play well if Alabama is going to take care of the expected business that they'll have an opportunity to do. And I have a question for you, Joe, this morning to kind of get things started, and we'll circle back with DC on it. But just without a lot of thought behind it, how important is it that Notre Dame doesn't have to win, but Notre Dame doesn't get blown out? And how important is it, I guess you could ask it kind of both ways, that Ohio State doesn't get blown out as well? Did this committee put itself in a position that if those two things happen, those two teams get blown out, that the legitimacy of the committee could be not at stake in the sense that it's going to get blown up, but that it starts sort of the conversation will have the effect of like the Alabama LSU matchup of a few years ago?
Well, Martin, most of the semifinals, the average margin of victory has been 21.5 points.
I know.
So a lot of the semifinals have been blowout games in the history of the college football playoff. But for Notre Dame, it's important to stay close for their reputation. You hear Brian Kelly going over the media basically saying, oh, we do belong. We don't have to prove anything. Well, they kind of need to prove something that they're a quality team because they continually get blown out in these big games. So I think for the Irish, it's very important.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The semifinals as a whole have been a pretty big blowout, and totally I think we're seeing the same thing with the Irish. More of it's as important for the Irish and their legacy in the sense of not their old legacy. I mean, the old heads will always respect Notre Dame, right? But the new generation doesn't really know much about Notre Dame, and what they've seen is this team keeps getting an opportunity and keep getting blown out. But even though the blowouts have been there, I just started wondering, will this impact the committee because it's such a different type of year, and everybody has already said what they said about Ohio State not deserving to be there, shouldn't be there because they only played 6 games, etc. Does this potentially have a different weight on it in terms of the committee? Because a lot of people think that had it been anyone else at 6-0, other than, I think, let's be honest, Joe, if Alabama, Clemson, or Notre Dame was 6-0, they would all be in as well. You see what I'm saying? Like
Oklahoma in there also.
Yeah, probably so. Let's be real. But the reality of it is, since there's been such an outcry, I just wondered, that wasn't something I've done a lot of thought on. That's why I wanted to tease it a little bit, give myself a little bit more time to think about it. But I definitely think there's a potential there that you could see some difficulty with the committee, or at least the question. That's all you need to get things to change, is start getting people to start talking about change. And I think this is something that could potentially motivate a contingent of people that the committee needs to be, modified, overhaul, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, let's get back to some of the Alabama players. They have so many superstars that sometimes these guys don't get their proper due. And yesterday we talked about the Remington Award finalist, Landon Dickerson. I still can't get over the fact that he played 725 plays and missed 2 assignments and allowed 0 sacks. No wonder our quarterback, Mac Jones, stood in the pocket with such bravery because he wasn't worried about getting hit. And then Leatherwood, almost as impressive. He had 683 snaps and missed only 2 assignments and had 99.6% accuracy, tied with Landon Dickerson on his assignment. So, and he's an Outland finalist. And then let's get this couple, trying to hit the guys that's not getting quite as much talk publicly. Patrick Chetane, the second, a guy that you absolutely was on at the beginning of the year. DB is a very, very interesting position. It's one of those positions that you generally only remember what they do wrong. And when they're really good and they're really a shutdown corner, you see them even less. So look at Patrick Chetane. He's up for the Bednarik, Nagurski, and Thorpe Award. All 3 of those, he's a finalist for those. This goes to most of the time to defensive backs, but he is considered the nation's top cornerback and the number 10 overall defender in the country by Pro Football Focus. Joe, listen to this. He was targeted out of 11 games. He was targeted only 43 times all season. And he broke up 18 of those. They only had 18 completions. So that's he gave up less than 2 receptions a game, 1.64 to be exact. You know how many total yards they got on him, Joe, all year?
Under 100?
No, it was over 100, but 250. Remember the Florida one hurt him. That really, the Florida reception really pushed his average way up. It was 250 yards for 22.7 a game, and that one reception was almost a third of the yards he gave up. So but that's one of those things. Think about when he wasn't covering a guy, they don't talk about him. So, he from that freshman that we saw potential to the guy he is today, does he have room to improve? Yes. But has he gotten better? Absolutely. Just 43 times teams thought, hey, it's a good idea to throw to the receiver that he's covering. 18 of the times they got it. The other 25, the ball fell incomplete. He allowed 25 yards receiving or fewer in 8 of the 11 games. So 8 of the 11 games, 25 or less. and his average grade, according to Pro Football Focus, is the sixth best in the country at 86.3. Patrick Chetane will definitely be missed in that backfield when it comes to the Alabama Crimson Tide defense, a guy that we're going to have to work diligently to replace. And then another guy that I think probably as much as anybody that got hosed through by the SEC, not nationally, but amazingly through the SEC, is Will Reichert. Will Reichert is a finalist for the Groza Award. He ranked second in the nation for consecutive made field goals. If you go back to his last kick before he got injured, and then the 12 this year, he's made 13 straight. That's the second longest streak in the nation. He owns a perfect field goal percentage to tie for the lead in Division I. I guess someone else out there has done the same thing. This is what's impressive to me, Joe. 85 of 85 kicks, including 12 field goals and 73 consecutive PATs. 85 of 85. And any Alabama fan know how impressive that is. Think about where we were last year. If we came down to a close game in the last 4 or 5 years, Joe, did you think we would have a chance to win? If we came down and had to have a field goal, would you feel like we would win that game?
Probably not since Jeremy Shelley.
Yeah. When was he here? Think about that. God.
11 and 12.
Right. I mean, that's how long it's been since Alabama fans could sit back and watch a game, and when the kicker was running out on the field, you felt comfortable. And so you have this guy going out there and absolutely 85 kicks in a row. How many extra points did we miss last year in the previous years? I mean, it was a regular occurrence. And so how he didn't even make 13. The SEC voters, coaches, etc., felt like he was at best, Joe, the fourth best kicker in the conference. Fourth best kicker in the conference.
Yet he's up for the Lou Groza Award for best kicker in the country.
I mean, think about that. I don't even know. I don't even know how you fix your mouth to even say that. That to me, that may be one of the biggest snubs of an Alabama player I've seen under the Nick Saban era. We may have had a few, but I don't know if any stands out quite as much as that. We got three more guys who've gotten a lot of love, of course, in terms of the national media, being Matt Jones, Devontae Smith, and Najee Harris. And we'll talk about those guys with DC Capstone Report. We'll continue to talk about this Notre Dame game, key matchups, keys to victory for both teams. What do they need to do to get it done? We'll also talk with DC in regards to the Ole Miss game as we wrap up this show, and then get his thoughts on Clemson and Ohio, and I'll get his thoughts on whether or not, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, does this potentially set up, if there's a blowout in both games, Ohio State and Notre Dame both get blown out, does it start the conversation about this committee and whether we need to change how we pick the four teams, or do we pick more teams? Whatever that conversation may lead to, does this weekend potentially start that conversation? Stay tuned for more. We'll be back right here on the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Towns of Nissan Traffic Center, we start our Tuesday with foggy conditions around the area, so please slow down and be careful. If you do see conditions folks need to hear
Morning, DC. You're live on Facebook. Can you hear me?
Hey, Martin. Morning. How are you?
Good.
How's my volume? Everything okay?
Yeah, you can turn it down a little bit.
All right. How's that?
That's good. I think it sounds good. I don't think it's too loud. So I'll be bringing you on. You're live right now, so I can chat with you directly if you need to chat. So we'll go offline on the volume here.
All right. I have the landline here, so I need to turn my volume off on my computer. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yep. I'm fixing to mute it. Hello. Oh, doing great. How you doing this morning, Joe? I am. I don't have any headphones or anything, so I've got like a regular landline in my hand, but it's fine. Well, it's going to be different, I guess, being on video and on the radio at the same time. My parents always said I had a face for radio, so. Hey, I saw you post something truth last night right before I went to bed. Last thing I saw was you said God was real. Amen to that. Thank you. Hey, praise the Lord. Just keep my advice is to tell you to watch and pray. And what he does while you're waiting is sometimes more important than the answer you get. So just wait and see. I've learned it this year, so it's a good lesson to learn. All right. Thank you, Joe.
On Tide 100.9, this is the Martin Houston Show. On Tide 100.9. We got DC Capstone Report joining us live. For the first time, he's going to do it on Facebook. We'll see if we can make that work. If not, we'll get back to our normal tradition.
Morning, Martin.
Doing good, DC. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm doing good. DC, go ahead and let me see if we can continue to move along. That's a little bit better. DC, Alabama taking on Notre Dame has a lot going on with it, but there may be an opportunity for there to be a little shakeup in the college football world. So before we get into that conversation, how important is it for the committee's sake that Notre Dame and Ohio State both have good showings and not get blown out?
Well, I think it's extremely important. It's something I've spoken about on my podcast and talked with others about. And here's the reason, Martin. One of the things we're going to do with the College Football Playoff Committee was we're going to get some live eye test into it, not just a computer generated. So the BCS, the bowls, the championship series, If you were to take those computers and you would have run it this year, they would have picked the same 4 teams. So the question is now, have we done any better? Have we improved with this college football playoff committee? And some will say we haven't because they didn't get the 4 strongest teams. So if Alabama blows out Notre Dame and Clemson blows out Ohio State, there'll be enough talking points there to say, hey, we haven't gotten any better. You didn't use the criteria you said you were going to use. There were a couple of other teams that were better teams just because they were in the same league. You didn't put them in. Just because they had lost to one of the teams, you didn't put them in. And so I think that gets a long way to say, hey, do we need to blow up this idea and come with the criteria because we're not any better than we were before.
Yeah, when you look at what's happening in regards to, this, I agree with you. I think it is mission critical that that they have a decent performance, and in some ways, I'm one of those that kind of hope they don't, just for the sake of the expansion of the playoffs. And some people say, I don't want the playoffs to expand. And being that the history, I think Joe and I was talking, and it's like a 21-point margin in the semifinals. Maybe we need to just go back to 2 teams and be done with it, because every year the average margin of victory, I don't think we've had a really big, a really good, consistent semifinals and when it comes to both games. So maybe that's the problem with college football. The haves are so far ahead of the have-nots, and the have-nots start at about team 3 or 4 in most years. So, but we'll continue to move on from that. DC, we'll look at the importance of Alabama taking care of business this week against Notre Dame. But before I get into those questions, let's bring in Pat. Pat, you're in with the Martin Houston Show. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, good morning, DC. Good morning, Martin. Want to continue on with what y'all just were talking about, the suits in the desert. And I thought that the game was going to go to 21 prior to kickoff. It's at 20 now at the MGM. And, hey, a 20-point difference. What in the world is Notre Dame in the game? This is incredible. Hey, 20 points is a blowout to me. If Bama covers the spread, I mean, that's saying right there that, hey, Florida or Texas A&M definitely belonged in before Notre Dame. What do you guys think?
Well, I agree with you, Pat. That's what I was talking about. I think that's going to be the talking points there that says, hey, if Alabama blows out Notre Dame, then Florida and Texas A&M, although they were in the same league, definitely would have deserved to be in the Final Four. So I think Alabama's going to blow them out. I think they're going to cover the spread, if it's 20 or 21. That's my prediction. So I think that's what we're going to see when it comes up.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking on the line of 52-14. And hey, that also covers the over/under.
Yeah, I think you're getting along the same lines there. So you're close to what I was thinking as well. I think you're close to where I was thinking as well. I was thinking 48-17.
I got you. But I just can't. It's just unreal. And why Coach Saban is not getting more creds for Coach of the Year? The job that he has done in a COVID year. If you'd have told us at the beginning of the season when they said we're going to play an all SEC schedule that Coach Saban was going to be undefeated through that deal, and that he was going to also back in March, that with where we were sitting as a recruiting class, that we were going to be number 1 in the nation, and it's not even close, that we're one player away from having the best ever signing class in 247 sports. That the best, you know what I just said, the highest rated class ever. That he was going to do this kind of job, and you don't have him up. He's not number 1 on your ballot for the Eddie Robertson and the Bear Bryant. hey, it's a farce. It's unbelievable how horrible that is. What do you think?
I agree 100%, Pat. One thing that we got to remember, though, that who that is. You know the truth. It's Alabama. It's Coach Saban. There's a lot of people that's come to just expect this from him. And we, in the media, people have stopped thinking how great it is when he does such great feats. So I think he definitely deserves both those awards.
Yeah, it's just the fact that he has been able to keep our players healthy. That he's gotten the kids to buy in, and that I'm just hoping that we get on through this protocol between now and the game, and that everybody stays where we need to be as far as not having contacted any of the cooties, I call them. And but anyway, I just want to talk to y'all and that hey, Notre Dame people not near as smart as what they think they are. And anyway, hey, have a blessed day, and that I really do hope that they spend lots of money on tickets to come down and watch yourself get whooped. Hey, have a blessed day, fellas. Y'all have a good one. Thank you, Martin.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate that. Let's get to Chuck in Louisiana. Chuck, you in with DC Capstone and the Martin Houston Show. What's on your mind, man?
Good morning, you all. Good morning again, Brother Houston. I was calling congratulate you, Sarkeesian. I see he ended up getting Frank Broyles Assistant Coach of the Year award. It's something to see how he's come like a long way from Brigham Young University. That's when I first watched him. I'm along in age with Stark, and to see him become the coach that he is, like I said, the guy said Keith Prince, but it was Keith Price. He coached at University of Washington. And I saw them. That was a battle between Keith Price and Brett Hundley at UCLA back in 2013 when I saw his team. And it's something to see. He may have had a setback there at USC, but look at he became when he came to Alabama as an analyst and then offense coordinator to the Falcons, and then now he's back to Alabama. I started really seeing him evolve now as an assistant. He's done quite well this season.
DC?
I think Steve Sarkeesian is very deserving of that award. I'm just glad the media has really came on board and voted him for that award. And those who go, he's done such a great job this year. If you see him call some of the games, Chuck, I think you agree. He's called some of the best offensive game plans that I've seen any Alabama offensive coordinator call.
He sure has, and like I say, he's really involved with his play calling. I think about him, he was on the Pete Carroll US, and you start. I know the older you become, you evolve more. That's what's been said. And I come a long age with Stark, and but it's just I was looking at him. You're right about that. And looking at his game plan, it's great.
Yeah, Sarkeesian has definitely done a lot to be awarded that. And, of course, the most impressive streak is that as an OC, he has reached, at this point, what I would say is the pinnacle of the new age of college football, DC, where his team has scored 35 or more points in every single game that he has coached. And, you always hear people say, well, you have to score this many points if you're going to beat this team. Well, based on Sarkeesian's record since he's been back, you are going to have to score at least 36 points or more if you're going to beat this team based on his track record.
Most definitely. And I think, Martin, there's something else that we should talk about that most people aren't talking about is his personal development that he's done since he's been here at the University of Alabama. Coach Saban stood up and gave an impassioned speech about giving up on 17-year-olds. Should you just throw them away and then not be anything? But, he has that same mentality when it comes to coaches. And this joke goes around about a rehab clinic. You come to the University of Alabama as an analyst and become rehab. But, the truth is Coach Saban values people, and he sees the good in people. And we don't give Coach Saban enough credit for that. And Steve Sarkeesian came here on some rough terms when a lot of folks had given up on him. He'd done some things from high level that he had been given up on, but Coach Saban didn't give up on him. And then he has been disciplined here. He's done a good job here. And Coach Saban had enough trust in him that he handed the keys to this great offense and said, hey, do it. And now you see when you don't give up on someone, when you place trust in them, what can happen. A life, a value can be given and added to a life. And I think I'm so thankful for that for him personally, as well as his football acumen.
Well, you know, DC, and thanks, Chuck, for those comments. DC, when you look at Sark, and we joke about the coach's rehab. Well, what would be the two of the first candidates for the coaching rehab? Would you say is Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian?
Yeah.
So would you give Nick Saban's coaching rehab an A++ in terms of what he's done? Now, we hadn't seen Sarkisian go back out in terms of the head coaching ranks, but the rehabilitation of his image. That's what we're talking about. Is this a guy that I can put my program in his hands and trust him? I would say Nick Saban did that for Kiffin, and we see him now at Ole Miss. And I think he's done that with Sarkisian in the exact same way. Even though Sarkisian hasn't reassumed that role, I think there's a lot of programs, that would jump at the bit if they thought they could get him.
Yeah, but we have to remember, Martin, that he did go away for the pros for 1 year. So at least we saw him operate in a different atmosphere out from under the Saban structure. And he did fine there as far as personally, and came back and has become a part of that. And I think, Coach Loxley is also, I think you can throw him in there. He's the head coach at Maryland now. And I think Coach Loxley has really done a good job. He was at his low point when he came out of that deal out west. And, Nick Saban took him in. And I think he's learned from the process, and he's gone on now and doing a great job at Maryland as well. So I'd throw him in that mix of those three: Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, and Mike Loxley. Yeah,
and Curtis Moore's second reminded me of that as well, saying Lox was a part of the coaching rehab early on as well. We're speaking with DC Capstone Report. We will continue that conversation coming back on the other side. Phone lines are cooking, so DC still want to get a couple questions to you regarding this particular game, as well as we'll turn our eyes to basketball in the fourth quarter a little bit there as well. But if you have a question or a comment or want to talk with DC Capstone Report or myself, then give us a call at 205-342-9904, or you can always post your thoughts and comments on social media, and we'll incorporate them into the program as well.
Or just double the regular premium package, drop a penny, and you can be one of the great members of Overflow Express Wash. My family and I keep our cars looking good inside and out by using Overflow Express Wash. They're located on Skyland Boulevard, right next door to Alabama 1, or you can find them online at overflowexpresswash.com. Andy Phillips and his team look forward to making you a part of their team.
What can give you a competitive edge in today's red-hot housing market? Rocket can. That's because Rocket Mortgage can give you a verified approval. It could help your offer stand out, because when you find the perfect home, you don't want to lose it to anybody else. Rocket Technology provides a rock-solid verification of your income, assets, and credit, giving sellers and their agents greater confidence in you. We've already helped over 1 million clients just like you reach their home financing goals this year alone. So remember this, what can help you buy the home you really want? Rocket can. Go to rocketmortgage.com or call us today at 8338-ROCKET. That's rocketmortgage.com or call 8338-ROCKET.
A verified approval is based on an underwriter's analysis of your individual financial information appraisal and title report. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
Nick Saban calls it the process. John Maxwell said that everything rises and falls on it. And Coach Wooden said it's what you learn after you think you know it all that makes the difference. What am I talking about? Leadership and personal development. Is your organization, your school, your church, your family, are they receiving the proper level of leadership development and personal development? If not, the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring can help you with that. We have our pep talks, which is a 1 to 1.5 hour lunch and learn, which we can customize to meet your needs, or we have some topics that we present that we know can help your organization. And if you're looking for one-on-one mentoring and coaching, we can also assist you with that. Visit peptalks35.com. That's peptalks35.com, or send an email to martin@martinhouston.org. That's the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Martin, you're on 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. We're in with DC Capstone Report on this Tuesday morning. We got a couple callers waiting. So we'll go ahead. Let's go ahead and get to those callers so make sure they can get in what they want to get to. Let's go to Lake Martin. John, you're in with DC Capstone Report and the Martin Houston Show. What's on your mind, man? Lake Martin, John, you still there?
He didn't drop.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and go to Super Joe. We'll come back and catch up with Lake Martin John. He may have taken a step away from the phone while we were on break. Super Joe, you're in with the Martin Houston Show and DC Capstone Report. What's on your mind?
Oh, man, everything all good, man. Shoot, every game's getting closer and closer. I tell you what. But do you see our defense? I think our defense is going to be ready to go ahead and play up the peak this time. Because I'm saying like this. I'm glad we had that good shaking up before the playoffs started. That way we know what wrinkles we need to iron out. But sometimes you had to expect Florida to play competitive, and and you also have to sometimes you need a good shaking up, and that's just the way that is. And and I'll say one thing about we know we're not gonna go playing Notre Dame from place and all. No, we're gonna go out there. We're gonna play balls out 4 quarters. But I say it like this. I'm not saying Notre Dame not going to play with potential, but I see so much to lose now. I just don't still letting our guard down, no shape or form, not at this matter. How about yourself?
I agree with you, Super Joe. I think that we played a whole lot better after that Ole Miss game. We had some shakeups there. We got to address it. Pete Golden spoke about it yesterday, where they were able to look at the film. I think we're going to see the same thing after the Florida game, and we're going to see some ways we could improve. But I think the number one key for us in this game, Super Joe, is our front seven has to match up against the run. Against Notre Dame, the key to victory is to stopping the run and getting off the field on 3rd down so that we can get our offense on the field. They're going to try to slow the game down. They're going to try to work the clock. They're going to try to run the ball. And our front seven, I think, is built to stop that. So I think that's the key to the game. If we can stop the run, then I think it's going to be a long day for Notre Dame.
Yes, right, because I said, we can do it because it's just like, it's just somebody, but we at a time now where offenses are way more ahead of defense. A lot of defense is just not, playing that much good. But then again, the rules in favor of the offense, long time ago was the whole opposite. But, I say this with all fairness. I do believe Alabama's going to be back to our old peak next year because the defense probably next year is going to be a little bit more ahead than the offense next year. Watch.
Yeah, I can definitely say this, Super Joe. I'm not sure if our defense is at the level we thought it was, 2 games ago, but I don't think it's as bad as people felt coming out of the Florida game. I think we played a legit Florida offense and a coach who was prepared for Alabama. He saw some key matchups. He saw some things that we did in our man-to-man coverage that could keep creating opportunities. DC mentioned getting off the field. Think about how many times they went 5 wide on 3rd and short. Who goes 5 wide on 3rd and short unless they know that they can get all your linebackers out of the box with their alignment and then run their quarterback? And Florida did, and they kept drives alive that way. And I think that their loss to LSU did for them what I think our close win against Florida will do for us. It made them go back to what they do, hone in on some key things, and I think our defense will be ready to play. So we're not as good as we thought we were, but we're nowhere near as bad as everybody thinks we are. We just played a really, really good Florida game, and I think we'll be up to the task against Notre Dame. Thanks, Super Joe.
Take care, man. Roll Tide, man.
Roll Tide, Super
Roll
Joe.
Tide. Do we have Lake Martin John? Are you there with us? If you are, welcome in, Lake Martin.
My fat finger had hit the mute button. Are you there?
Yes, you're here. Go ahead.
John, good to hear you.
Great. Thank you, sir. Listen, I just wanted to, by the way, great analysis of the Alabama defense. I really think that is spot on, but I wanted to propose something that is fairly unpopular, but I like the 2-game. Just take the top 2 teams, because we're complaining that Alabama is a big favorite. Well, who wouldn't they be a big favorite? If we played Texas A&M, we'd still be a big favorite. So I think by just taking the top 2, you'd get the only close matchup. I think Clemson is the only team that we wouldn't be double-digit favorites over. So let's just go ahead and go to that. What it would do for me is it would make each game during the season a little more important. You can't lose. You can't go out. I really hate this saying, well, we can lose and still be in. I despise that. So,
but Lake Martin John, why is that the criteria for college football Power 5 D1? That's the only place that's the criteria for. There's not been an undefeated team in the NFL that won a Super Bowl since the 70s. No one the only place you have to be perfect to be considered great is in D1. I think everybody says, well, the season won't matter. Yes, it will. What they need to do, Lake Martin John, is they need to give that first round of playoff games to the highest ranked seed and have that game on campus. Okay, think about if you're worried about losing the importance of the games, then you just make it where if you have the best record, you get to host a game on your campus. And then guess what? Who's going to be fighting to win? Everybody's going to be fighting to win.
That is an incentive that isn't there now. I agree.
Right. And so, but how often has the favorite won the Super Bowl? And I'm not talking about the favorite that won once they got to the Super Bowl game. I'm talking about the one who had the best record going into the playoffs, had the hottest streak going into the playoffs. Most of the time, that's not the team that wins. It's someone else that figures out how to get there. A la, what was it, the 9-6 Giants against the 16-0, and ultimately the records were different by the time they got to the Super Bowl. But that was their record going into the playoffs, and the Giants won. So football is played on the field. I don't think you should just give it to the top 2 teams when there's no way to truly determine that. Lake Martin John, it's all innuendos and eye tests and suggestions when they're not having to play each other, a good gamut of each other, and so you really can't tell who is the best. It's just a perception. DC?
Well, I agree with you 100%. Lake Martin John, I just don't think it would be good to have just the top 2 teams specifically I think we've always wanted to see who else out there could be the best team at the end of the season. And I think that if we go to a Division III setup where there's an incentive to win as many games as you can win and have those first two games on campus, I think that's the way to go. I agree with Martin on this.
I agree. I'm beginning to see that. I just like the fact that you can, keep the importance of the regular season.
Yeah, and that's the key. I agree with you there, John. If we just went to it the way it is now, then you probably would, then once you feel like you're out of it, then you may not play as hard. But if you could be the one, because remember, it's not just the record doesn't just matter for the top two teams. It also matters for that second place team as well. Because if you're the second place team and the number one seed goes out, then it has to come through your place. So I just think that the bowl games are part of the reason we can't get to a legit college playoff different than what we have right now. If you get down to it.
I agree.
Makes sense, and that's why I call the show, guys. I appreciate y'all's expertise.
All right, thanks, like Mark John. Coming back on the other side, we're gonna have some conversation with DC about the keys to victory. He already hit one of them. We'll ask him what else does Alabama need to do, and what are some of the key matchups in this game, and then we'll get his thoughts quickly on Alabama versus Ole Miss. You listen to the Martin Houston Show with guest host DC of the DC Capstone Report.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the towns of
Curbing LLC.
Try Arby's 2 for $6 everyday value today. Choose from a classic beef and cheddar, Euro, or chicken cheddar ranch sandwich. That's only at Arby's. Arby's, we have the meats.
What's hot for business this week at Staples?
Small prices, big savings.
Help your business go big with amazing prices on great tech, plus the services to help set up and protect your new PC.
And now, during Staples PC clearance event, save up to $180 on select Lenovo PCs, like the Flex 2-in-1 laptop with Intel i5 processor.
Shop in store or pick up curbside and visit staples.com/protection to learn about keeping your computer safe.
Ends 1/2/21 while supplies last. Curbside available in most stores.
There are a lot of disturbing things happening to our kids these days. So what are some of the signs of child abuse?
There are common signs of child abuse. Prevention begins by noticing changes in a child's appearance or behavior. Some of the common signs include bruises, injuries, or scars. Other signs are rebellion, skipping school, or depression.
Child protection and preventing child abuse are top priorities at Child Abuse Prevention Services of Tuscaloosa. Contact them today at 205-758-1159.
The The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with DC Capstone Report. You can find the DC Capstone Report at dccapstonereport.com. You can also find out the great presenter of DC Capstone Report, freelancepictures.com and rolltopebama.com. All three of those sites will give you great content, great video, great pictures, great insight into the University of Alabama sports world, not just football. DC, go ahead, DC.
Hey, good morning, Martin. Yeah, I was going to say, don't forget to check out Lance's sites there, rolltopebama.com and freelancepictures.com. We got some great video, great content up there.
Absolutely. Hey, Curtis Moore II had a question that we probably can save to next week. But he was just saying he knows his rat poison because he's looking past Notre Dame and has Clemson looking past Ohio State. But he's a little concerned, DC, that Pete Golding was calling the plays against Trevor Lawrence the last time. So we'll talk about that next week. But Craig Wooden did have a question. He said in his opinion, defense is average. Why don't we play more zone?
Well, I think the answer to that question, well, first to answer Chuck Hunt's question, Martin and I will be called to Coach Saban's office. We talk about the Clemson game today, so we're not going to be allowed to do that. That is rat poison. We'll talk about it next week. But to answer the other question, the reason we don't play more zone is in the SEC, we play zone against teams that we can match up well in the zone with. But you don't want to play zone against certain teams that have a quarterback that can pick apart the zone. So a zone wouldn't be bad against certain teams. It would really give us an advantage. But Coach Saban's defense is a press man coverage, and that's the process that these players have been raised up in. So I think they go to zone only when they match up well against the quarterback on the other side.
Or if we can get a lot of pass rush. If we can get pass rushed, and if he doesn't feel like we can pressure that quarterback, then zone becomes an issue because there's plenty of time for guys to get open. So I know that's part of it as well. But our pass rush has gotten better lately, so maybe it'll continue to get better. A couple quick questions for you, DC, before this game. Keys to victory. You mentioned being able to stop the run. Another question I have is how important is third down with the legs of Ian Book in this game?
I think it's extremely important. And I think one thing you've already picked up on is if Notre Dame watches film, they will try to spread Alabama out and allow Ian Book to run that quarterback draw. He does a really good job of. So we're going to have a counter for that. Somehow this front seven is going to have to match up well. Now, when I say match up well, that offensive line of Notre Dame is really good. And I think they're very, very, very good in what they do. And so we're going to have to match up really well against them on the front seven in order to stop that run and to stop that quarterback. We can't let him extend the plays. We got to get off the field on third down.
Absolutely, you have to get off the field on third down, and you have to force them into. You said run plays was definitely the ability to run the ball effectively would definitely have an impact on the game as well. Any key matchup that you're going to be looking for in this game?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be looking at for our inside linebackers, and can we make as good a tackle? Our tackling has gotten better since the Ole Miss game, and can we make tackles on the running backs and cover the running backs out of the backfield? If we stop the run, one of the things that Notre Dame loves to do is throw to the tight end and the running backs. I think those running backs and our linebackers are going to be a really big matchup this game.
All right, DC. Hopefully you guys will be able to tune in. DC and I will be doing a special show with DC Capstone Report later this week, and so he and I dig a little deeper on that. On the Alabama Notre Dame game. DC, I want to switch over real quick to basketball. Something that we've done in the past is the 3-point play, which is really three things that Alabama needs to do. Number one, what does Alabama need to do or have in the game against Ole Miss if they're going to get the victory?
Number one is we got to shoot the ball well. We haven't shot the ball well from three-point range. We haven't shot the ball well in any other game. That's the number one thing. Number two is we got to limit our turnovers. You can't have silly turnovers that gives Ole Miss the ball a lot. And number three is we've got to play defense. We can't just run to the other end. We got to play defense and rebound. We do those three things and we win this game.
What are you thinking in terms of Rojas and Petty being back in the lineup? A self-imposed program punishment where they were not allowed to play. Is this team still searching for chemistry?
I definitely think that shows you that the team's searching for chemistry. Anytime you have players that aren't playing, sitting on the bench, come in and do some things, and there could be a lack of chemistry. Having to find those five and then that sixth, seventh, or eighth guy that can play together is tough when you're in the early of the year. And you have to remember, a lot of these games Alabama played were not against teams that were easy victories. These were some tough teams they played. And I think it showed in lack of chemistry on the court. I think that Coach Oates is trying to send a message that no one's above playing along and playing within the game. I think he says their attitude's been good. We'll see when they come out against Ole Miss and see how they play.
Yeah, he said that Petty would definitely be out there, and Rojas has an injury that he's dealing with, but we'll see. Any closing thoughts in the next 15, 20 seconds?
Well, I just think that Ole Miss had one tough game against Dayton. Let's see how they play against Alabama in this game. Alabama has a chance to get a good victory in this first game against Ole Miss if we play our best.
All right, and we could be Kentucky. There we go. Go.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate you allowing me this platform to be on your show. It's a great show. Thank you for all your listeners, and roll tide.
Roll tide, that's DC Capstone Report. Hey, go give a follow to DC Capstone Report, and you will be able to catch some special content each and every week as we move throughout the rest of the football season as well as basketball. I'm Martin Houston. That's DC. Thanks, DC. Thanks, listeners. Thanks, callers. Thanks to all of those who chat. And thank you, Joe, for the Martin Houston Show. Remember this, trust in the Lord always. Lean not your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Roll Tide.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.